The wind whispered through the towering pines as Sarah tightened her grip on Michael's hand, her fingernails digging gently into his palm. The fading daylight cast long, finger-like shadows over the narrow dirt path leading to the secluded cabin. "Are you sure this is the place?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, betraying a mixture of excitement and unease. Michael nodded, his gaze fixed intently on the rustic structure nestled among the trees. "This is it," he replied, forcing a reassuring smile. "A perfect getaway, just like I promised." They had come seeking a peaceful retreat, a chance to mend the frayed edges of their relationship far from the relentless pace and noise of the city. The forest seemed an ideal sanctuary, a place to rekindle lost intimacy and silence the doubts that had crept between them. Inside, the cabin exuded an eerie charm that was both captivating and unsettling. Dust motes danced in the fading light that filtered through grime-streaked windows. Antlers and faded photographs adorned the rough-hewn walls, each telling silent stories of hunts long past. A threadbare rug sprawled across the creaking wooden floor, its intricate patterns depicting scenes of man and beast entwined in an eternal struggle. Sarah felt a chill creep up her spine as she ran her fingers over the carvings etched into the heavy oak mantelpiece. There was something archaic about this place, as if time itself had forgotten it. Michael busied himself with lighting the fireplace, hoping the warmth would dispel the unease that clung to the shadows. "It's rustic, but it's just for the weekend," he said, trying to sound upbeat. Sarah nodded, but couldn't shake the feeling that they were intruding on a place steeped in secrets better left undisturbed. Sleep came fitfully that night, the silence of the forest amplifying every creak and rustle. Sarah drifted into uneasy slumber, only to find herself alone in a moonlit forest. The trees loomed overhead, their branches twisting into grotesque shapes. A faint sound of sobbing carried through the mist, drawing her deeper into the woods. She followed the sound to a small clearing where a boy stood with his back to her, shoulders hunched in despair. "Are you lost?" she called out softly. He turned slightly, his face obscured by shadow. "Help me," he whispered, his voice tinged with desperation. She reached out to touch his shoulder, but he vanished like smoke, and she awoke with a start, her heart pounding. Beside her, Michael was already awake, his eyes wide and haunted. "I had the strangest dream," he murmured, his voice barely audible. Their eyes met, and without words they realized they had both been visited by the same spectral figure. Determined to uncover the truth behind their shared nightmare, they spent the next day exploring the cabin and its surroundings. The forest felt different in the daylight, less menacing, but still cloaked in an unsettling silence. In a dusty corner of the cabin, behind stacks of rotting firewood, Michael discovered a loose floorboard. Beneath it lay a hidden compartment containing a rusted, jagged trap stained with something dark and long-dried. His hands trembled as he held it up. "This must have belonged to the hunter who lived here," he said grimly. Alongside the trap were yellowed newspaper clippings detailing the disappearance of a local boy named Thomas decades ago. As Sarah read the articles, a sense of dread settled over her. The boy was last seen near these very woods, searching for his lost dog. The pieces began to fit together, painting a picture more sinister than either of them had imagined. That night, the boundaries between reality and dreams blurred. Sarah awoke to the sound of footsteps creaking across the floorboards, but when she opened her eyes, the room was empty. A cold breeze brushed against her skin, and she noticed the bedroom door was ajar. "Michael," she whispered, but he was sound asleep beside her. Gathering her courage, she followed the footprints traced in mud leading from the front door to their bedside. The air grew thick with the scent of damp earth and decay. Suddenly, whispers surrounded her. incoherent words swirling in a cacophony of voices. Shadows flickered at the edge of her vision, moving with a life of their own. Panic surged through her veins. She shook Michael awake, her voice trembling. "We need to leave now," she urged. But when they scrambled outside, the forest closed in around them. Every path they took twisted back to the cabin, as if the woods themselves were conspiring to keep them trapped. Desperation mounting, they realized that confronting the spirit was their only hope. They gathered the hunters' belongings, the trap, old knives and trophies, and built a makeshift pyre outside the cabin. The flames roared to life, casting wild shadows that danced among the trees. As the artifacts of cruelty were consumed, the wind rose to a furious gale, howling through the branches like a chorus of anguished souls. The boy's spirit materialized before them, his features now clear, a pale face streaked with dirt and tears, eyes reflecting both sorrow and gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered, a faint smile softening his expression. Just as relief began to wash over them, a chilling laugh erupted from the darkness. The shadows coalesced into the towering figure of the hunter, his eyes glowing with malevolent fire. "You think you can erase my legacy?" he snarled, his voice dripping with contempt. The ground trembled beneath them as gnarled roots shot up, wrapping around their ankles. As terror threatened to consume them, Sarah clutched the medallion she had found among the hunter's things, a symbol of protection inscribed with ancient runes. She hurled it into the flames and a blinding light erupted, severing the roots and engulfing the hunter in searing radiance. His screams echoed into nothingness as the ground swallowed him whole. The first light of dawn broke, bathing the ravaged clearing in a soft, golden glow. The oppressive weight that had burdened the forest lifted, replaced by a profound stillness. Exhausted, Sarah and Michael clung to each other, tears streaming down their faces. "It's over," Michael whispered, his voice raw with emotion. The forest, once sinister and foreboding, now seemed peaceful, the trees swaying gently in a soothing breeze. As they cautiously made their way along the now clear path out of the woods, Sarah glanced back one last time. There, standing at the edge of the trees, was the boy. No longer sad, but smiling warmly. He raised a hand in farewell, and a sense of peace enveloped her. They returned to the city, forever changed by the ordeal. Though they never spoke of the events that transpired, an unspoken understanding lingered between them. The nightmares ceased, replaced by dreams of tranquil forests and the gentle laughter of a child set free. In the quiet moments they pondered the unseen forces that weave through the fabric of the world, humbled by the knowledge that some secrets demand to be heard, and some spirits yearn for justice. Their bond, once fragile, had been reforged in the crucible of shared fear and redemption, leaving them inseparable.